Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. As always, I'm your Captain Definition. We're at the final frontier of Picard with Season 1 now officially coming to an end. There's a lot to unpack from the latest entry, and throughout this video we're going to be breaking down everything that happens in the new episode and what the ending means. A couple of theories came true, a couple didn't, and overall there's a lot to discuss in this extremely emotional episode. We will be engaging with heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to catch the show yet and don't want to know what happens, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for videos like this every day, and if you enjoyed the coverage then please drop a thumbs up. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking the video. Now let's get into our breakdown of Picard episode 10. The episode opens with Narek fleeing to the Borg cube. After he escaped, or was rather let free by Sutra last week, he's pretty much become a wild card that could bring her revolution crashing down. As he sneaks in, we see Elnor and 7 of 9 discussing their kinship and how neither really have a home. This sort of plays into the ending of the episode, which we'll discuss later in the video, but there is this aesthetic laced throughout the entry. Elnor is of course from Romulus, which was destroyed during the supernova, and it's nice to see them at least paying lip service to their similarities. Narissa has been hiding on the cube, but I'm sure we saw her get beamed out of there when the Borg ambushed her. There was definitely a glow and then we watched the ships leave the area, but my mistake if I took that the wrong way. I think that this return was pretty poorly handled, as she did get swamped and then all of a sudden she's just been hiding out. A lot of the characters have just shown up when they needed to, and I don't know, it just feels like a bit of lazy writing. The two end up splitting up, and as predicted, Narek ends up changing sides during the entry. He's had a strong connection with Soji throughout the season, and this does make a lot of sense for a number of reasons. Anyway, Picard is on house arrest, and Soji visits him. Here he tries to dissuade her from building the beacon to some of the higher level synths that can wipe out all of life in the universe. I love the line where Picard states that thinking that they have no choice is a lack of imagination, and overall Sir Patrick Stewart does a great job of arguing his point throughout the entry. You can see him slowly start to win Soji around, and he has some big moments in this finale. Also, hats off to Iso Briones, who's played Soji, Daj, and Sutra throughout the season. Each character has felt different to the other, and she's probably had the toughest job out of all of the cast and has handled it really well. Raffi and Rios reactivate the ship, and Narek reaches out to them in order to save the universe. This has been his goal throughout the season, and I don't really think it mattered to him too much which side he was on, and thus him going all Benedict Arnold is actually believable. He tells the story of Gamadam, an ancient myth similar to Ragnarok which prophesizes 2 demon sisters that come at the end of time and unleash a great amount of monsters through blowing a horn. It is of course very similar to this episode, and rather than being a prophecy, Narek actually believes it is history which will repeat itself. Agnes talks with Soong about activating the synthetic body that will allow him to do a mind transfer. Now it's rare that I shout out other YouTube channels, but definitely check out our partner One Bamalam, which dropped a fan theory last week that said Soong was lore. It doesn't turn out to be true, but it actually makes this episode seem a lot better, and he argues some great points. It's definitely a channel you should be checking out in general, and his theories got me thinking a lot about Sutra and what she represents. Similar to lore, Sutra and Jana were created first, before Soji and Daj. Lore was made too perfect in some ways, and this had massive effects on his personality, and thus he became a narcissist that believed himself superior to humans. This motif is seen in Sutra, who too was created to be perfect. She's pretty much seen as the leader of the synths, and has likely ruled over the colony, even placing herself above Soong in many ways. This episode does indicate that she has supplanted her creator, and thus she is the perfect person, or rather android, to fit the role of the destroyer. She hasn't seen first-hand organic life and has only really heard stories about their prejudices. Juxtaposing this, Soji actually has, and she realizes throughout the episode that people are just acting out of fear in their hate for the androids. It really speaks volumes to first-hand experience versus second-hand knowledge, and how in being judgmental towards people that we haven't really seen up close, it can lead to unfounded hate and distrust. Gamadam has clearly inspired a lot of hate in the Romulans, and to me it echoes how things can become ingrained in societies that lead to people hating other groups of people. The crew of La Serena take Narek to the compound as a prisoner, Agnes breaks Picard out, and soon recovers the memory from the murdered droid and discovers that Sutra was behind it. With the Romulan fleet approaching, Picard decides that he cannot abandon the children of Soong, and he wishes to give them an example of how human life really is. Soong confronts Sutra and deactivates her whilst the crew disable the beacon. 7 of 9 and Narissa go head to head on the Borg cube, and it really ramps up towards a big battle. I also got to hear the term half-meat, which I'll be using to call my mate with a prosthetic arm from now on, so thank you for that, Narissa. Narissa gets some really good dialogue when going against 7, and I think it's one of the best battles in the series thus far. Saying all that though, I do think that they did rush to this point. I was expecting Sutra to be a much bigger foe for the finale, but she's pretty much relegated to playing second or even third fiddle with what's going on. You've got the big space battle, the 7 vs Narissa fight, and the one at the beacon, so it doesn't really feel like the ideas that were building up last week get a chance to develop. I wasn't disappointed with any of the action, it just felt like they were so desperate to get to this that they dropped a lot of the plot threads that had built towards it at the first opportunity. 7 kills Narissa as the battle outside the planet rages on. Agnes talks about the maneuver that the Stargazer pulled off, and this ties back to the first episode in which the ship made an appearance as a model. The two enact this strategy on a grander scale to make it look like they have an entire fleet, and it isn't too long before they're joined by a real one. Now, watching Riker arrive back in the uniform is a standout moment for the entire season. Though I love the ending he got with his family, I must admit seeing him return this way gave me goosebumps, and it feels like one of the big money shots that the show has been building towards. The Irremotic syndrome that Picard has been suffering from starts to go critical, and he pleads with Soji to dismantle the beacon and prove everyone wrong. He trusts her to make the right choice, and it's a really heartfelt moment. After she turns off the transponder, the Romulans return, and Riker retreats after giving a respectful goodbye to Jean-Luc. Picard collapses and Soji beams him back to the planet, where I'm not crying, you're crying. Now, CBS did greenlight a second season and set up that there was a duplicate body, so I did know that this wasn't going to be permanent, though it does pull at the heartstrings. They drag the death and the grief that follows it out for as long as possible, and hell, they even do a sort of Forrest Gump ending with a butterfly, and it does feel more impactful than if they had have just initially turned around and resurrected him. We learn that in his dying moments, Dr. Soong and co were able to scan a complete neural image of his brain and download his consciousness into a machine. Through a quantum simulation, the show constructs a sort of afterlife for both Picard and Data to have an exchange in. Picard never got the chance to tell Data that he loved him, but through Data's memories, we learn that he knew he always did. It's through this conversation that Data tells Picard that his consciousness still exists, as he downloaded it before his death. He states that though many desire immortality, he wishes to die to learn what it truly means to be human. This ties back to the book that Rios was reading earlier in the season, which was The Tragic Sense of Life. This book states that in order for life to have true meaning, it must be finite. It's only with the knowledge of death that we give anything true value, and I did like how the conversation alluded to Data's wish for death in order to gain purpose. They say their goodbyes, and Picard returns to the land of the living through the host body that Soong was creating last week. It has no augmentations or powers, and it's pretty much the same crappy old body that he had last time, but he no longer has the brain abnormality. Couldn't you have just put him in a 21-year-old body or something? You guys suck. Either way, it sort of resets things to the status quo, and Picard appreciates that his days are still numbered. Picard shuts down the matrix that Data's consciousness now lives in, and we watch as he ages and dies. It's a spellbinding exit for the character, and I have to say that this, coupled with the other aforementioned elements in the episode, made it the best entry thus far. On this ship, everyone pretty much gets a happy ending. Raffi and Seven get their moment that the get woke go broke crowd are gonna go wild over. Agnes and Rios show that the leaks weren't true, and Soji and Picard realise that they've found a home in one another. The ban on synthetics is now lifted, and the group head out into the stars on their way to season 2. I have no idea what happened to Narek though. Anyway, as a whole, I've really enjoyed Picard. There have been a couple of moments here and there that I think failed, but overall I was quite surprised to see a lot of backlash towards the series, especially when I enjoyed it quite a lot. I guess no one hates Star Trek more than Star Trek fans, but bar some consistency problems with the original continuity, I felt like it has been an interesting progression for the character. I saw a lot of comments as I was doing the recap which stated that Star Trek had suddenly become woke, but growing up, to me, it always kind of was. This was a show that had the first interracial kiss on mainstream TV, often explored ideas of immigration and what it meant to be human, and season 1 sort of felt like a continuation of that. Bar the pronunciation of a couple of people's names changing every 13 seconds, and a couple of other CGI moments, it's hard to really fault the production, and for a first entry in a new chapter, it felt like a great way to start. I found the new characters all interesting, and I love the subversion that they did with the Borg. I know for sure that I'm nowhere near as close to the property as some of the people crying out that it sucks are, but as a casual fan, it got me way more interested in Star Trek than I ever was before. So yeah, in my eyes, that's not a bad thing, but due to some big diversions from the next generation, I can see why some are disliking the show, even if I don't agree with them. Overall though, I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm really interested to see where the season goes in the future. The finale was the best of the run, and it had so many amazing moments that I'm really excited to see more. I do feel like they explored some interesting ideas, took Jean-Luc on a journey that really evolved the character, and also put some pieces in place that will lead to new adventures down the line. For me, Picard Season 1 was a fun ride, and overall, as a complete package, I'd score it at a 7 out of 10. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on Picard, so comment below and let me know. I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's followed us alongside the series, and it's been great watching you fill the videos with comments and what you've taken from the show. We're currently doing breakdowns of Westworld Season 3, so if you're watching that, then make sure you check them out after this. If you want to support the channel from as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below. We massively appreciate it, and as a thank you get access to content early. If you want to come chat to us after the show, either follow us at DefinitionYT or click the Discord link in the description below. Those are the best ways to keep up to date with heavy spoilers, so hopefully we see you over there very soon. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Definition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.